Here's how I made the place cards for my wedding reception using my NextDraw pen plotter. Not only do they welcome guests to their seat at dinner, but each one has a personal note inside from me, my new husband, or both of us. Follow along if you're interested in making place cards or notes like this for your own wedding or other special occasion. You'll find a step-by-step guide to go along with this project at the link in the description. If you're new to pen plotters, this project involves learning some new software, but it's really easy to pick up thanks to the excellent documentation that is provided with the NextDraw. This was my first big project with any plotter, and the whole reason I bought the machine in the first place. Now's a good time to tell you this video is sponsored by Bantam Tools, makers of the NextDraw pen plotter. Originally called the NextDraw series and created by Evil Mad Scientist Laboratories, EMSL was acquired by Bantam Tools earlier this year. Lenore and Wendell were acqui-hired by Brie Pettis of MakerBot fame. I've known all three of these passionate, talented, lovely people since we met at Maker Faire in 2008, and I'm so happy to see them joining forces to make the best and easiest to use plotter right here in New York State. That's why I'm proud to recommend the NextDraw and offer you 10% off art machine products and accessories through the end of 2024 with code Becky Bantam. Full disclosure, I did buy my own NextDraw 8511 machine before we partnered up, but Bantam Tools gave me the NextDraw Merge software for free. The NextDraw extension works with Inkscape, the open source vector graphics software, to plot your drawings. The software comes with some example files to test out and get familiar with plotting. I picked some brown letter size paper and experimented with some different gold pens. I like this Jelly Roll brand. I wanted to add some organic plant shapes to the place cards, and I always really loved this Cuban poster art, so I traced the floral design using the Bezier line tool. I originally intended to make some wallpaper with this vector art, and I still might, but this is a good use for it too. I like the way it looks in the sparkly gold pen on the brown paper. So I divided the page into 4 place cards and added the guest name text to the front and our event text to the back. I made a few place cards this way with the free NextDraw extension, but knew I needed to automate things if I was going to be efficient with my time and the over 100 place cards that needed plotting. Fortunately, Bantam Tools sells a separate plugin with data merge capabilities, plus a bunch more fonts as well as handwriting defects. It's called NextDraw Merge, and it's an incredibly powerful tool for plotting many names, many notes, many addresses, or other repetitive text with changing data. The basic NextDraw plugin is free, but the NextDraw Merge is a separate paid plugin. We composed our notes using Notion and created columns for the greeting, message, salutation, and signature. Writing all these notes was definitely the most time-consuming part of the project, but allowed us to reflect on these relationships with our favorite people. I didn't wait until all the notes were finished to start plotting them, but when I had enough to fill a couple of pages, I'd export the Notion database as a CSV, which stands for comma-separated values. CSV is a universal spreadsheet format that the NextDraw software can read. You could easily do this in Excel or Google Sheets instead, but I happen to be using Notion for other guest list related things already. I'll put a link to my sample database in the write-up for this project, so you can copy it if you want. While I was working on this project, I was also invited to PlotterFest, an event that Bantam Tools was hosting at their HQ in Peekskill, New York. I met some amazing people and came away with new friends, inspiration, and some tips and tricks for using my machine. Oh, and I got Wendell, Lenore, and Brie to sign it while I was there too. Here's a tip I learned that seems obvious once you see it. To align the magnetic easel, you can position the pen in the home position and line up the easel such that the pen tip is at the paper corner. Then slide the pen all the way to the right and pivot the easel to align the other corner. Back at home, I made a spacer to help me align the easel more quickly. I used the free browser-based 3D modeling software Tinkercad to design a small tray that is just the right width to shim the easel from the machine's frame. Then I 3D printed it. And to not waste space, it also doubles as a pen holder. You can find the file to print your own at the link in the description. Back to the place card file in Inkscape. I can use the name of my column in the spreadsheet inside double curly braces to refer to the data in the spreadsheet. In this case, I use the name column. Then to plot 4 at once, I need to specify a different row in the spreadsheet, and that's done with 2 plus symbols and the number of rows to skip ahead. So if I start my plotting with row 1 of my data spreadsheet, this text says that the name will be replaced with the name in row 1, then name plus plus 1 will be replaced with the name in row 2, name plus plus 2 will be replaced with the name in row 3, and name plus plus 3 will be replaced with the name in row 4. Next, I went over to the NextDraw Merge extension and told it what data file I wanted to use. That's the CSV I downloaded earlier. I also picked which font I wanted to use, since this plugin will replace the variable text with the single line font of your choice. Here's also where you can choose to enable the handwriting defects, which make the result look more like it was written by a human. It took us a few tries to get a format we were happy with, which also includes the event info, which I made using the stroke font utility that comes with the NextDraw Merge software, and the guest table number, which pulls from the data as well. So that's the exterior of the place card. On another layer in the Inkscape file, I set up the format for the inside of the card, where the note will go. This text is entirely data-driven, from the guest greeting, which is sometimes not the same as their name, to the content of the note, the closing, and the signature. These are the columns in the database, and just like the exterior, I also needed to use the ++ syntax to specify nearby rows in the spreadsheet. But since the paper is upside down from when the exterior was plotted, the inside cards need to swap positions so the exterior matches up with the interior once they are cut apart. I really got into a groove when it was time to plot these, and making some gave us motivation to finish the notes for the rest. I let each page dry before flipping it over to plot the other side, and often used a data file with just 8 rows at a time. As I marked them plotted in Notion, this export page filters out those finished ones, leaving behind only the completed notes that have yet to be plotted. Like I mentioned, I've made templates for the Notion database and the Inkscape file, which are linked in the tutorial below. After plotting a complete set of 4 place cards and letting the ink dry, I cut the cards apart. First with a utility knife, metal ruler, and a cutting mat, but then I remembered I had a little paper cutter squirreled away, which isn't necessarily much faster, but it is much safer. And we were in an injury exclusionary period leading up to the wedding. Along with my paper cutter, I also have this folding board, which made it easy to crease the paper along its fold line. I used a bone folder along with a ruler to lightly push the paper into the groove. If you don't have one of these, you can just use a cutting mat and press a little harder. Since I had plenty of paper and pens for this project, which are the only consumables besides the electricity to run the machine, I figured I'd give myself peace of mind and plot a second backup set of place cards. I found that the brown paper could easily get stained by touching it with your oily fingers, and who knows what could happen to each one of those cards before the reception. It just made me feel better to know that each one had a backup in case something went wrong, in a separate plastic bag. This also gave me the ability to plot 2 of each card, then choose which one turned out better. Sometimes the ink doesn't flow evenly, or the handwriting defects look nicer on one than the other. What I really enjoyed about this process is that I got to learn and make something new while making an on-theme craft to make my wedding guests feel special. The rest of the event had a hand-drawn theme as well, including chalkboard signs and matchbook portraits by my friend Ohio Mike. Now it's time for some Q&A. How many pens did you use? I used 4 of the main color gold and 2 of the extra sparkly one for the flower design for about 115 guests. That includes all the testing, design iterations, and mistakes, and that backup set that I made too. How far in advance of the wedding did you make all these? I had the idea a full 8 months in advance, and I had been playing around with the design and of course writing all of the notes during that time, but I didn't start plotting the actual place cards until about a month before the wedding. What's cool about having the plotter around is that as things change last minute, I was able to keep up with the changes to our guest list up until the day before we left for the wedding. Seems like a better outcome than having to order them from a printer in advance and leaving some last minute additions without place cards. How did the machine hold up with so much plotting? It was just fine. One of my wheels cracked, which theoretically can affect its accuracy, but it hadn't yet. Bantam sent me replacements covered under warranty, and it was very easy to replace. Where do you put your plotter when you're not using it? Well, I made a spot for it on the wall of my workshop, but also the packaging it comes with is very sturdy, so I've saved that, it's in storage, for when I want to transport the machine. I now use it relatively regularly to address envelopes full of stickers going to Patreon supporters, so it's in rotation. If you have more questions, I'll answer them in the comments. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with a friend. I hope you'll subscribe with the bell to be notified of my future uploads. Subscribe to my email newsletter and find me on your favorite social media platform. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. This video is made with support from my sponsors and generous donations from viewers like you through Patreon and YouTube memberships.